This meeting will be recorded. Our policies that stills and excerpts may be pulled out and used for the club and its public relations and social media outreach. But first and foremost, we're recording so that it's useful to the club to be able to go back and see whether you said and ah or glitched with your technology in the way that the evaluator said you did, and can improve going forward. We can make exceptions. Really what that means in this case is I can go back and destroy the evidence. If something terrible went wrong during your presentation, we can destroy all the digits. Welcome to Online Presenters Toastmasters. This is a club that meets online and focuses on learning skills for better webinars and online events. We want to thank RingCentral for allowing us to use the RingCentral Meetings platform, which is integrated with a number of their products, including the GLIP collaboration tool you see here. They do want me to let you know that the cloud is winning in business communications and RingCentral is winning in the cloud. If you haven't been in online meetings before, one of the most important things to this video environment is actually the audio. So it's a good idea to get yourself a headset that plugs into your computer. Earbuds will work in a pinch to prevent audio feedback. Mute your mic when it's not your turn. That's in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. And you can also turn your video on and off, but we do like to see you. And there is also a power that the Toastmaster or the host of the meeting has, which is to mute everybody. And we'll do that periodically through the meeting just to prevent any audio problems. However, you can unmute yourself if you need to speak up. There is also a control that allows you to switch between the gallery view, where you see everybody, and the speaker view, where you see the person who's actively speaking at that moment. So everybody gets to control their own view. And one of the things that can be tricky in this environment is being able to see the timer who's trying to show you those green, yellow, and red signals. So take a moment before you begin your presentation to make sure you can see the timer. You can scroll through those little thumbnail images. It's okay to tell the Toastmaster that you're not ready to begin until you can see that timer. We want to keep our meeting on time, and we don't want people to be embarrassed by going over when they didn't mean to. If you're visiting as a guest, we ask you to come at least twice as a guest before joining. If you do want to join, understand that it's an advanced club. It's not for absolute beginners, although we do have a way of voting in people who don't meet the default requirement for 6 or more speeches. We can vote by the board. Oh, that's the end of that. It is now showtime, which means that Roger is in control. I will mute myself and we'll go on with our meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President, and welcome fellow Toastmasters and our guests. Happy Memorial Day. Thanks to all those who have served and sacrificed themselves so that we can have the freedom and liberty to enjoy our life and enjoy such connections all over the globe in tonight's meeting. I hope that tonight, not only are we going to be able to hear some good speeches and evaluation, but each and every one of us will have time, a fun time, to learn from one another and to encourage and cheer on to one another. My role is to ensure that our meeting runs smoothly and on time, and we have 3 major sections to our meeting. 1 is our formal speeches, 2, table topic questions, 3, our evaluation segment. To ensure that everything runs according to plan, I have a group of helpers, so I would like our helpers to explain to us what they will be doing tonight. First up, our R counter, and that is Adrian.
It is my job to let you know if you are speaking and using filler words. Filler words are words such as and any other words that you use as a crutch. That is my job, and I'll give you a report at the end of the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. Next up, our Mr. Timer, David Carr.
Yes, I will be giving indicators along the way to show if anybody has gone over time, or show green, yellow, and red. You'll see that in the background behind my image. So as I said, make sure you can see the timer, make sure the timer does his job. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. Next up is our grammarian. Mr. Ben, please.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. So I'll be your grammarian today, everybody, which means that I'll be looking for good and not so great use of language. And I'm also going to be looking that you use the word of the week, which is today, sacrifice. Roger gave an example actually earlier already, right? Right, today we celebrate those who served and sacrificed themselves for our country, right? That was a great example already, Roger. So please use the word sacrifice today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben, for jumping in. Our watcher of the day is John. John, please. We can't quite hear you, John. Try it again. Not yet. As you are adjusting, I'm going to jump over to our vote counter first. Susan, please tell us what you're going to be doing today.
Today, when you take account of your table topic speakers, send me your wish for who the best table topic speaker should be, and who your best speech speaker is, and who your best evaluator is. And then I return that to you, Roger? Or does
Correct,
that?
please.
Okay, very good.
Thank you, Susan. And when you do pass on your vote, please use the private chat directly to Susan Ellsworth. Thank you, Susan. Our chat monitor today is Ellen.
So
Elaine.
Thank you for catching that and making a correction, Roger. Today, I will be sacrificing some of my full attention to listening to speakers because I'll be multitasking and watching the chat box. I'll be particularly looking for to assist with any needed references, links, or things like that that might be helpful for our guests and Toastmasters participating today to refer to. Back to you, Roger.
Thank you, Elaine. And back to John, our watcher. Let's try it again, John.
Yes, I think it was early in the morning here in the Philippines, and I forgot to turn on that little button at the bottom. So as a watcher, I will be observing the visuals, the body language, especially because we're presenting online. So we want to see your hands, we want to see your facial gestures. And of course, if you have any presentation slides during your speeches. And at the end of the meeting, I will present my report. Back to you, Toastmaster.
And big hands to each and every one of our helpers for making sure that this will be a successful meeting. And thank you for your sacrifices. We are going to launch right into our prepared speeches. We have 3 speakers. We are going to have some fun. First and foremost, our first speaker is Mr. Rod Moore. He will be giving his icebreaker to us today. The title of his speech is A Broken Coffee Mug. This is his second path in Pathway Presentation Mastery. His icebreaker speech for 4 to 6 minutes. He has been a Toastmasters for 2 years and is currently the president of Yandina Toastmasters, VP of PR at the Comedy Club, member of Kulam Communicators, and of course, a member of Online Presenters. He is the incoming area director in his area and a past District 69 table topic champion. Help me welcome Mr. Rod Moore.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster, and I'm excited to be here. Now, back in 2006, I walked into my office and I was a marketing consultant at the time. The first thing I went to do, make a cup of coffee, because nothing happens without first coffee. But then disaster struck. I broke my coffee mug. I thought, what am I going to do? next door to my office was a $2 shop. And I thought, I'll just pop in there, get a coffee mug, everything will be fine. So I walked into the $2 shop, and little did I know that that one single decision would completely change the course and direction of my life forever. So I go in and I find a coffee mug, and then I turned around and I literally found myself in the art supplies section. Beautiful colors, brushes, canvases. Now, I'd never painted anything in my life. I had no artistic ability at all, but something inside said to me, Rod, buy everything. So I did. I bought everything I could get my hands on and took it all home that weekend and did my very first painting. Then I did something that most people do whenever they try something new. I concluded that I had no skill, ability, or talent, so I put it all in a box and I shoved the box under the bed, never to be seen again. 2 years later, I found myself in London on business, and I had a full day of meetings, but one of the meetings happened to cancel. And as I looked at my mobile phone, getting the text message of the person who was cancelling, I happened to be standing out the front of the Tate Gallery on the Thames River in London. Now, I'd never been in an art gallery before in my life, but this little intuitive voice said to me, Rod, go in. So in I went. For the next 2 hours, I was completely mesmerized by the J.W. Turner paintings on the wall. Beautiful oil paintings. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. And this little intuitive voice said to me, you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life. Now, I fought that idea for years because my identity wasn't as an artist at all. I was a business person, a marketing consultant. And I really struggled with that at first, but the bug had got me. So I started trying to learn how to paint. And that began the most frustrating 2-year period of my life. I used to have a full head of hair, but trying to learn how to paint, it was so frustrating. Because what I realized is that most good artists don't necessarily make good art teachers. Then one day I'm on YouTube and I found a guy, most of you would be familiar with, a guy by the name of Bob Ross. He had the big afro hair and he was on TV and he taught millions of Americans to learn how to paint in the 80s. And what I recognized was that Bob had something that most other artists didn't have, and that was a methodology. So I went and learned how to become an art teacher using that method and started teaching it here in Australia. Now, there's a big problem as an artist or an art teacher. If you're an unknown artist, very difficult to attract students to you. So I thought, how am I going to market myself? Now, being a marketing consultant, I quickly realized that if I just copied what Bob Ross did, I could attract students all day long. About a week after having that thought, a guy comes on TV and he says, we're looking for more people to create TV shows. So I called out to my wife and said, hey, Dale, how would you like to make a TV show? To which she dutifully replied, yeah, that sounds good, honey, let's do it. I had no idea how to make a TV show, right? Absolutely no clue. But literally within 2 weeks, I was standing in a shop and I overheard this little funny little Irish guy telling somebody in the shop that he'd just arrived in Australia from Ireland and he had a TV camera. And I said, hey, mate, come here. Talk to him into to joining us in making a TV show. And within a few weeks, we were out filming 13 episodes of what became Plein Air Painting TV. And it was broadcast all around Australia in primetime TV. Now, naturally, as a result of that, I attracted lots and lots of people who wanted to have lessons with the TV artist. I had no idea what I was doing at the time, but over the course of teaching hundreds of people through workshops, I refined the approach down to 3 simple steps, 3 colors, and 3 brushes, because I recognized most beginners overcomplicate things. So I simplified it right down. And at the same time, I started filming myself in the garage, painting. And I started doing little demonstrations and videos, putting them up on YouTube and creating online courses. And I had no idea when I started 5 years ago doing that, where that would lead to. But today, more than 20,000 students around the world have learned how to paint using the Moore method of painting. So the moral of the story is, firstly, next time you get an intuitive urge to do something, follow it. Because how often do we just completely ignore our intuition? And the other moral of the story is, next time you go to make a cup of coffee, be careful, you just never know how it's going to change your life. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mr. Rod Moore. Yes, I will be much more careful in terms of whether I will break my coffee mug or not. Our second speaker today is Carol. Carol is also working in her pathway. This is her level 1 Mastering Fundamentals, Researching and Presenting. The title of her speech is The Difference Between Toastmasters International and National Speakers Associations. And do you want to become a professional speaker? Which organization will enable your success? Today, Carol will answer these questions and describe the differences between Toastmasters International and National Speakers Association. She is a professional speaker, a business professor at Michigan State University. She is the current president of the National Speakers Association, the Michigan chapter, and she is a candidate for International Director of Region 6. So please join me in welcoming Carol as she presents the Researching and Presenting Project in the Dynamic Leadership Pathway. Carol, take it away.
Was simply saying that I have some credentials behind me to know the difference between these two organizations. So thank you, Roger, for giving us that background. When I examine these differences between these two organizations, I have to expand my viewpoint because they look at the world so differently. I have people telling me point blank that I don't need Toastmasters if I'm in the National Speakers Association. I disagree wholeheartedly. In my mind, they are complementary organizations that help me be successful in the professional speaking realm of the world. I want both. But let's examine in detail some of those differences so that we can truly get an idea for that. And I know my audience today is very familiar with Toastmasters, so I'm not going to belabor those points, but I do want to show the differences between Toastmasters and National Speakers Association. First, we have the mission. Toastmasters is a nonprofit educational organization. It is worldwide, and we help people improve their communication and leadership skills. National Speakers Association, which I will now refer to as NSA, is a US-based organization that provides resources, mentoring, and connections to individuals to help us become more efficient and effective in all aspects of professional speaking. Now, so that basically summarizes down to National Speakers Association is there to help improve the business of speaking, whereas Toastmasters is helping us improve our platform skills along with the leadership, but I'm going to ignore the leadership for this presentation. It's focused on the platform skills. All right, so membership. Toastmasters is huge. 352,000 members in 141 countries. 16,000 clubs. National Speakers, on the other hand, if we look at all of the affiliate organizations across the world, is 53,000 members. And because it's a US-based organization, we're only talking about 3,400 members. They have 34 chapters, and they call them chapters, not clubs. These 34 chapters throughout the United States range typically between 1 and 4 states. Toastmasters has a typical meeting of 1 hour. We tend to meet weekly, not always, of course. Members learn by doing. We have 5 to 7 minute presentations, and we practice all the roles in any meeting. All of these skills are helpful for us no matter what type of platform we end up speaking on or participating in. In National Speakers Association, we typically have an expert come in. They have a meeting for 2 to 4 hours. We meet monthly, or in my case, we meet every 2 months. Members listen. They don't get up there and present very often. They simply listen to that expert, and we listen for about 2 hours to that expert. Now, what's the qualifications to join? NSA is focused on, Toastmasters is $90 annually, plus the club dues. National Speakers Association is a lot more expensive, and there are qualifications to be a member. You have to earn $25,000 or more a year giving paid speeches, or you get paid for 20 speeches or more, or you have 20 speeches or more as part of a salaried position. I'm in that third category. That's how I became a member of National Speakers Association. And each of these presentations must be to 15 or more people, and they must be live audiences, and it has to be within a 12-month period of time. Now, the national NSA membership is $540 for an initial fee, plus you pay $465 every year after that, plus their chapter dues. So to become a member of the Michigan chapter, I have to be a member of national, and so I'm paying those national fees, and I have to pay a Michigan fee of $135. That does not include the seminar fees, which are additional $55 or $60, depending on your membership qualifications. So with all of this information, we see big differences between Toastmasters and NSA. Toastmasters is a self-improvement organization that helps you improve your platform skills, speaking, presentation, and leadership. NSA, on the other hand, is focused on providing resources, knowledge, tools, people that can help your business development as you perfect your skills in the speaking industry. So it's not so much focused on the platform skills. We're looking at the business skills, the marketing, sales, book publishing, all the other things that make up a professional speaker. So in focusing on the differences between National Speakers Association and Toastmasters International, there's some big differences. In my mind, they both offer skills that people want to access, particularly if they want to go down the path of a professional speaker. If you're interested, I have more information out there on www.perhinsky.com. Feel free to reach out to me with questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carol. What a great overview of the difference between these two organizations, and certainly Carol have been benefiting from both. Please do reach out to her if you want more information. Our third speaker is Jimmy Dent. He is also working in his pathway of speech tonight, Effective Coaching Level 2, Learning Your Style in Mentoring. The title of his speech is Jumping Right In. This is the last speech in his Level 2 presentation, and he will be discussing his first mentee experience and how it shaped him in mentoring other members during the past 8 years. Jumping right in, Jim Dent, take it over.
Okay, before I start, I still see Carol's presentation on the screen. Has she quit sharing? There we go. Okay. Jumping right in. What does that picture in your mind of jumping right in? Well, my first experience of mentoring was when I first joined Toastmasters. In May of 2010, I joined a club, or I showed up at the club with a filled out application to Bridgeview Toastmasters in District 57 in South Carolina. And on that day, they were having club elections. And somehow I got nominated to be the VP of membership for the club. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to get into? What am I sacrificing as far as my personal time? And then Subi Matur, some of you may know that name, told me, don't worry, I'll mentor you. You won't be alone. And she began to mentor me on the officer role. Not on my speeches, but on how to perform the VP of membership, how to prepare, what's my roles and responsibilities. And that went on during my term. She gave me a lot of tips before meetings and during meetings. And then a year later, Subi says, Jim, why don't you become an area director? At that time, I was an area governor. And I says, oh my God, what am I getting into? What am I going to sacrifice now? That's a lot more responsibilities. Because by that time, I was also being elected as another club officer in the club. There's another, I think at that time I was going to be VP of membership or VP of education and an area governor. And she said, don't worry, I'll mentor you. And I started to learn that mentoring is really a two-way experience. the mentor learns as much about mentoring as the mentee does. Because the mentor learns your personality and learns things about yourself, your attitude towards things, how you present yourself, how you communicate. And the mentor helps you to better communicate and better lead the other members of the club. Somebody's sharing their screen right now. I don't know what it is. But so that went on, and she admitted that she learned as much from mentoring as I was learning as a mentee. Now, I used that as I progressed into Toastmasters and other clubs. I learned that mentoring is a two-way experience. When I mentor different people, I learn so much about those individuals because every individual is different. They have different habits, they have different styles, methodologies. And I found out it's more than just mentoring somebody on their first 3 speeches. With new members, I learned you mentor them on the different meeting roles when they're going to hold it. So they know how to perform a meeting role. They know how to present a report in an enthusiastic way, rather than just give it in a monotone or unenthusiastic way. One of the first things I did was mentor a person on being the Toastmaster of the meeting. And they did an excellent job. And one of the things I did was tell them, don't worry, I sat right up front next to the lectern so I could mentor and coach them as they were doing the meeting. And I could whisper to them or give them little hints. And that helps somebody's self-confidence when they've got somebody to kind of looking over you when you're performing a role for the very first time. I also learned to mentor the person that became the area governor after I left the position, where I found out a lot of area governors just kind of ended their term at the spring conference or the May conference, and you never heard from them. So I continued into the transition and into the first few months to make sure they knew how to plan the contest, how to plan their club visits, how to keep themselves from getting frustrated with all the things they have to do. I also taught them, instead of organizing the club contest, find somebody that wants to do it as an HPL and recruit and delegate other people to do everything, and all you do is stand back and lead the team and just make sure everything is happening. Now today, I'm coaching a club. I was just assigned a club, got officially appointed a club that only has 5 members. And so I'm going to find out I'm coaching and mentoring. And I find coaching is a combination of mentoring and coaching. I view it as mentoring is you're teaching people technical skills, how to navigate pathways, how to navigate Club Central, how to maybe structure a speech and organize a speech. Coaching is more mental mentoring. You're teaching them the attitude, how to communicate effectively, which communication style to use for different situations, and which leadership style to use for different situations. So I've learned that mentoring and coaching are similar, and mentoring should never stop. Embrace mentoring. Find somebody, as soon as they join the club, begin to mentor them or volunteer to mentor them. So I hope all of you find a way to mentor somebody, and it doesn't matter whether they're an experienced Toastmaster or a new Toastmaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you to all 3 of our speakers. We went from broken mugs to NSA to mentorship. We have a full variety of topics, and we're going to expand that topic even further by going into our next segment, our table topic, speaking segment. So be prepared. as our table topic master may very well pick you. Mr. Andy, take it away.
Off of here. Can you hear me? Okay. Today is Memorial Day in the United States, and what I'm going to focus in on is your reaction to quotes from presidents along the way talking about this day and the sacrifices that have been made. The first quote is, "Children are running their fingers over colorful ribbons that they know signify something of great consequence, even if they don't know exactly why. If you're a friend of the family that has just been notified that a loved one has died, and they come in with this flag and all these ribbons, what would you explain to the child of what all this means?" First person, Jeffrey.
Thank you,
Jeffrey?
Mr. Table. Am I there? Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Table Topics Master. Now, being a Canadian and in Canada, I can also relate to Memorial Day. We have a similar day called Remembrance Day. But how would I react? How would I react if someone arrived at my house and said, my son or daughter is now gone as a result of war? I would be devastated. And at first, probably like a lot of people, I would want to blame everyone for what happened to them. But in time, I think I would come to the realization that my son, my daughter chose to be a brave person to represent our country. Canada, United States, it doesn't make a difference which one. Chose to purposely step forward and bravely represent what they believed in. And that belief, of course, is the freedom that you and I enjoy today. It makes no difference whether you're from Australia or if you're in the Philippines or in the UK right at the moment. The same truth holds, is that men and women stepped out bravely so that you and I could be on this call today and live freely. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Next person, Anna. I'm going to give you this quotation. "At its core, the nobility and the majesty of Memorial Day can be found in the story of ordinary Americans who became extraordinary for the most simple of reasons. They loved their country so deeply, so profoundly, that they were willing to give their lives to keep it safe and free." What does that mean to you, Anna?
It means a lot to me for the mere reason that I lost my country due to a rebel. I don't like to talk much about him. But yes, knowing that your land is yours, that you can actually grow and become something because you defended it and you stepped up to really show that love, it means everything to me. That's here and now in the US. It is my job to make sure that I help others understand that concept of land, of ownership, of that which gives you everything, and to defend it. And that is where I am right now. Thank you.
Okay. The next quote. "Our nation owes a debt to its fallen heroes that we can never fully repay, but we can honor their sacrifice, and we must." John.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Even though I'm not a citizen of US, I do know about sacrifices and how much people need to take in and understand those people who stand in front lines, defending the freedom, defending our people from whatever country you are and whatever you belong to. One of the things that I do take in place is the fact that I grew up in Serbia during the Civil War. Since Serbia is part of former Yugoslavia, we have experienced a lot of those wars. We have been in wars since the early 13th century, so I think we know a fair few about wars. But it relates to any country in the world, and the sacrifice that people, not just men anymore, but women also, giving their lives, giving their freedoms to participate and be with their families to defend our freedom. So rather to be able to live freely the way we do, because whenever you walk outside a door and consider how easy it is to walk outside, you don't consider the factors that there are people far, far away trying to do something to make that simple for you, so you don't have to look over your shoulder when you walk out of the house. One of the things that I do also appreciate, because I was also part of the military in Serbia, is the fact that it gives you pride and joy to be able to serve, because at the end of the day, serving others is one of the greatest gifts that you can give to the world. Back to you.
Thank you very much, John. Dagmar, what does Memorial Day mean to you? If you look around, it looks like it's very commercialized and everybody's just focusing on the sales. But what does it mean to you and your family? Dagmar,
Fellow
can you hear me?
Toastmasters, and yes, and most welcome guests. I live in Canada just for 1 year and a half, but I'm originally from Poland. So I cannot say, I cannot really relate to this specific celebration, but I'm being Polish and having very difficult history during the Second World War. I'm really proud of how we celebrate this holiday, and it's not commercialized at all. It's just something that it is in our heart. We go out, we sing the songs. It's happening on November 11th, and it's our Independence Day. So this is how beautifully you can celebrate. Just go out, sing the songs, go out with other people, and just remember all those people that died in the Second World War, that give us freedom, and as well the First World War. And this is how we celebrate. So I would say this kind of holiday, it is very important, and to keep in that mind that it should be about feelings, about expressing them with your family, instead of just commercializing. And maybe this is the thing that is happening in the United States, but in Poland it's very beautiful, and I just wanted to share with you this experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dagmar. Roger, we've done 4. Do you want to go further or should end it here?
That is good for today. Thank you very much, Andy. We do have 4 great impromptu speeches. May I have a timers report on all 4 of them, please?
Yes, Jeffrey, 121, Anna, right at a minute, John at 138, and Dagmara at 140. So all are eligible.
Thank you. All of our table topic speakers have qualified. Please send your vote to your most favorite table topic speakers to Susan. Also, earlier, David had reported in the chat that all 3 of our prepared speakers have made their time also. All 3 speakers qualify, and that would have been Rob, Carol, and Jimmy. Also send your favorite speaker vote to Susan privately. Click on the button, choose Susan, and send her your votes. With that said, as you are sending your votes, let us move along to our evaluation portion of our meeting. First up, evaluating Rod's speech is, oh, I'm a little lost.
Me.
Lois will be evaluating Rod. Please, Lois.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day. My fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests, and especially Rod. Wow, a broken coffee mug. Who could imagine that a broken coffee mug could change your life? I have to tell you, I absolutely loved this speech. I thought it was one of my favorite speeches I've heard in a while. and you brought it to life. Did everybody enjoy this speech? Was this amazing? I hope you are watching everyone and not just speaker view, because we all enjoyed listening to how you transitioned your life. You did so many things well. You went ahead and you explained about Bob Ross and how your identity was changing and throwing away all of your art supplies and putting them in the closet like we all would do. Things that we could relate to, things you did well, vocal variety, body language. He was up here. He was ready to go. He was talking to us as if he was right here. And I thank you for that. What could you have done that might have taken this speech a little bit higher? Show us your painting. I want to see one. Does anybody else want to see one of these paintings? This was great. I would also be curious to know what 3 colors and what 3 brushes, because I am artistically challenged. So this has just, I'm jealous that you could do something like this by looking at a TV show and saying, I'm going to learn how to paint. Kudos to you. That's an amazing individual. But I would have liked to know a little more of the detail, only because it would be really interesting. And lastly, I would like to know, how do you feel? You have made this amazing transition in your life. You have moved from being public relations, being a marketing expert, where you had your identity, where you knew who you were. And in the last 5 years, you had completely changed your life. You have switched who you are. You have a new identity, and you have moved into that. How does that play in today? Are you happier? Are you enjoying it? Is this something you're going to continue pursuing? Overall, I found it absolutely fascinating. Now I just want to know the dirt and everything else that goes with it, because we all want to change our lives at some point, and you did it, and some of us might just be a little jealous. Great job. Look forward to the next one. Mr. Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Lois. Rod painted a picture with his speech, and Lois added color, plenty of color in her evaluation. I see that Mara might have dropped off in connection, so we'll come back to her and we'll jump over to our speech number 3. Jim Barber, take it over.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. My fellow Toastmasters, our most welcome guest this evening, and especially Toastmaster Jimmy Dent. Wow, Jimmy, I was impressed. I'm not organized here. Let me try to explain what impressed me so much, though. There are different speaking styles, and we see the different styles, for example, in the meeting tonight and in basically any Toastmasters meeting. Speaking styles can range from oratorical to excited, calm, relaxed, and conversational. That was what you did tonight, was calm, relaxed, conversational, and that was completely appropriate for a presentation on mentoring. If I'm being mentored, I do not want personally, I don't want somebody doing that to me. I want somebody that's calming me down and assuring me that everything is going to be okay. Don't worry about it. And you not only demonstrated that in the content, but you also showed us how you would basically do that in your presentation style. That was so nicely done. That's not to say that you were so relaxed that you weren't demonstrating a proficiency at speaking. For example, I loved your body language. When you referred to a couple of times, oh my God, you were rubbing your temples, you put your hands up here. We could see, we knew what you were talking about just through your body language, just through your gestures. You didn't even have to say anything. That was great. What really impressed me is that technology, as it so often does, it sabotaged you not once, but twice this evening. Things went wrong and you weren't expecting it. It didn't throw you. You didn't sacrifice, you didn't sacrifice your speech to the technology problems. You just simply went ahead, you acknowledged that something was going wrong, but you didn't let that bother anything. You just kept right on going. That is the sort of mentor that I want to get me through the rough waters of what I'm doing. I loved your comparison of mentoring and coaching. That's something that I always knew that there was a difference, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. And you explained that so nicely. My problem is that I don't have any great suggestions for improving this. I thought it was a great presentation. I do have a small one, and it's just purely a personal preference. Your face, you've got a great face, and it's not using enough of the screen. I would like to see you a little bit closer to the camera so that we can make better use of what we're seeing there. But that's a tiny, tiny thing. This was a great speech, and I'm really looking forward to hearing you again sometime. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. I hope that, Mara, everything is okay with that, Mara. It's just simply a digital connection issue. But so let me just go ahead and take our timers report first, and we hopefully can come back to another evaluation. Mr. David.
338 and Jim Barber at 310. So both would qualify?
Both do qualify. So go ahead and vote for your best evaluator right now between Jim and Lois. And
Roger?
Yes, please.
Was Dagmara supposed to evaluate Carol?
Yes.
Okay, is there someone who would like to evaluate Carol, or we can pick it up because we all had Lou, would you like to evaluate Carol?
Actually, I was going to say we could do something that I've done at one of my other advanced clubs, is like a round robin thing, because I've been taking notes as I've been listening, and I think Carol might appreciate it if we all had a little bit of feedback, or whoever Roger would like to call on.
Go for it, Lou.
Okay, well, I'll start. Carol, things I loved about your speech is the fact that you were already queued up when Roger was introducing you. So great job in getting yourself ready from the get-go with your your slides on the screen, ready to go. Awesome. And I also love the fact that your slides were not overly crowded, a big thing that a lot of us hear about, read about, learn about, but for some reason I myself am still learning about how to make my slides less crowded so that I am focused on you, the speaker, and not the slides. And thank you so much for really bringing out the essence of what this speech is all about and sharing the difference between those two associations, because that was something that I had not particularly known what the differences were between those two. I could easily research it, but you know what? I didn't have to, because you shared it with your speech tonight. Other than that, I think I would have liked to have heard, as far as some feedback goes from what I would like to have seen is perhaps maybe you could have shared some content of what you heard or what you do at the National Speakers Association. In other words, all of us know what goes on at a Toastmasters club, and you did say kind of like what happens at an NSA meeting, but I maybe would have liked to hear some for examples. And if you did share some, I apologize, because here again, I was taking notes at the same time. Thank you, Roger.
If you want to speak, please raise your hand real quick. Lois.
Carol, of course, we all loved your speech. I would have liked to have known, what do you get out of NSA? What is it that you are taking away from that is different than what you're getting out of Toastmasters? Because all of us have thought about it, and I think, Jim Barber, you are with NSA, right? Okay, so what is it that you take out of it, because you're already a speaker at your college and you do so much with Toastmasters? What makes you stay with this organization? What's the hook that keeps you involved? And for those of us that could probably move up into that range, why would we? What value would we see out of it? That's the only thing I might have added to it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Raise your hand if you want to give a comment or two.
Dagmara just
came back. All right.
My computer crashed at the worst moment possible.
I'm not sure we have time, though.
I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I tried to get it back, but.
Dagmara, if you could just give me your feedback in writing, I think that'll help the meeting progress.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
I will definitely send it right away. Yeah.
And thank you, Lou and Lois.
I was timing as if it was an evaluation speech. If Dagmar wants to give a quick snapshot, most important thing.
Yeah, very quickly. So without timer, right? Without the timing.
Go ahead and give us your best comment that you'd like to give to Carol.
Yeah. So, Carol, what I really loved about your speech was the clarity. And I think you met very well objective of presenting well-researched, well-organized speech. So I would say clarity was perfect. There is nothing I can comment on here negatively. And only one thing of improvement would be, I'm not sure if this was just connection, but you started to speak a little bit earlier. So I didn't hear the introduction. And I think like in this kind of very informative presentation, it's very important to have a great introduction so you can connect with a audience and then you can engage them more, because it's a difficult topic. We have a lot of facts, stats, numbers. So introduction, giving the bigger opening, maybe asking some questions would be something very, very helpful. And also I had an impression that you speak too fast, because even though the structure was very clear and you had just only few slides, there was a lot of content in it. You had mission, then you have membership, meetings, qualification. It was all very dense. So if you could just maybe, if it's possible, maybe stick to 3 points instead of 4, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tamara. Thank you very much, everybody, for your flexibility. Please do vote for Jim Barber or Lois as your favorite speech evaluator. Please go ahead and send it to Susan privately. As we continue to evaluate the rest of our meeting, I'm going to first call upon our grammarian, Ben.
Oops, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Yeah, everybody did great today. The word sacrificed was used several times, twice by Roger, 1 time by Elaine, 1 time by John, and 1 time by Jim. Me, myself, I think I sacrificed myself very much for today, because the grammarian's probably my worst role, I have to say. Yeah, a couple of great phrases that I picked up today, and we heard a lot, yeah, so I'm just going to mention a couple from Rod. Nothing happens without that first cup of coffee, right? Another one was, next time you make a cup of coffee, you never know how it will change your life, which was great, right? Jimmy said, the mentor learns as much about mentoring as the mentee does. And also mentoring is a two-way experience, which I found really great. Right? John says it gives you pride and joy to serve others. And Louis mentioned a couple of funny things. First of all, I'm artistically challenged, which matches myself sometimes too. Right? She also said, now I just want to know the dirt, which I found great. Right? Jim had a great phrase too when he gave his feedback. I do have a small suggestion, and it's a personal preference, right? Which I found really great, because if I receive feedback, in the end, it's the evaluator's personal preference, right? It's not black and white. This was not so good, but it's sometimes just what the evaluator likes. That's everything from my side. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Back to you.
Thank you, Ben. Mr. Watcher, John.
It was an exciting meeting. Everybody performed pretty well. There are 3 suggestions that I wrote down here. One is for Rod. For hand gestures, being on the screen, it's quite difficult, even for me in brick and mortar clubs, just to over gesture. It might be a bit distracting to the audience. That doesn't serve just for you, but for everybody else, and as a reminder to me. For Jimmy Dent, I would like to recommend that in case that you get carried away in the thoughts, as you are just now, I do that sometimes, your hands remain still in this position, and we just see a portion of your arm. So maybe either lower it or continue explaining. And one of the things that Jim Barber that mentioned about coming closer to the screen. So there is a portion coming closer to the screen, but also staying away from it. Sometimes, I think it was Rod that came too close to the screen, so it kind of cut off your head slightly. No, it wasn't Rod, it was Jeff. you came too close to the screen and cut off the top of your head. So always be aware you can do that by clicking on top right corner of the Ring Central and adjusting it to the gallery view so you can see that everybody will fit sort of perfectly. That's from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam All-Counter, Adrian.
Okay, unfortunately, I have to sacrifice a few of you so that you can become a master in your field. Roger, our club is really good with not saying as much, but we do love crutch words and fillers. Roger, yes. Ben, right, which is a crutch word. Lois, okay. And Anna, Carol, now is your crutch word. And souls. I'm not going to say how many. This is just an area that we need to focus on. Dagmara, that, but, maybe are your crutch words. So, and. That would be me. Not Jeffrey, I think the first table topics person, crutch word is that. So, Jim Barber, two ums, and Jimmy, now, well, maybe, so, and Lou, you know, and Rod, so, and last but not least, John, because. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much for a thorough report. Elaine, what have you seen in the chat?
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests this evening, I most enjoyed being the chat monitor this evening to once again feel the great collegial, encouraging spirit of Toastmasters to each other. I also wanted to bring up that it is Lou Brown's birthday. So happy birthday, Lou. The chat provided us with that information.
Happy. Everybody singing? Happy. You can unmute for this. Never mind. Back to you, Elaine. Sorry.
Happy birthday.
Happy
Happy birthday.
birthday to you.
What they said.
And so, continuing with my report, the chat also became the place where I reiterated for you that you can reach Carol if you want to have further conversations or inquiry or conversations about Toastmasters International versus the National Speaker Association. It's Carol at Grahinsky, am I saying it right? .com or www.grahinsky.com. The other very important thing I want to bring up is our guest Susan Ellsworth, who is representing the Great White Northern Online Club. I have also posted in there that they meet on 2nd and 4th Sundays, if I've recalled it correctly, at 4 p.m. Mountain Time. And so for those of you that might like to grace our club as a guest, please do so. It's a good idea to bring forth this support of each other. We can do it in lots of ways. So thank you, and back to you, Roger.
Thank you, Elaine. Our general evaluator, I'm gonna put you on the spot. You've got less than 1 minute, Lou. Give us your evaluation.
Thank you very much, because as general evaluator, Mr. Toastmaster, thank you, by the way, I was just about to ask, one thing of all of our helpers is to please remember the 1 minute max on timer reports, because I just have my timer going, and now Roger just cut me down to 1 minute. Not fair. Anyway, great thing. Roger, excellent keeping us all on track with the agenda with the flexibility when folks are or are not available in the ordering of things. Excellent for that. We started on time. Everyone sacrificed a Memorial Day, I should say, or for those who are celebrating such a day. Thank you to all of you. I would like to suggest we change the agenda. This is just one of my suggestions, though. so that the reports come after the general evaluators report, so that folks still have an opportunity to ding me with some ahs and ums and get feedback from some of the other helpers. I might have some pretty good grammatical things that I could say as a general evaluator. And again, remember, helpers, keep to the 1 minute max so that we can stick to the agenda. Now, I ask the officer team to maybe have that as part of their next discussion. In other words, maybe folks could email their reports to members, or maybe they could put that in the chat box or something like that, because we do have folks who run for a meeting at the top of the hour, and we'd also like to hear from our guests. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lou. And thank you very much for a wonderful, wonderful meeting. And before I turn it over to our president, our best table topic speaker tonight is John. Our best evaluator is Lois. And drum roll, please. Our best speaker is Rod.
Yay.
Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Roger. And thank you very much for helping so much with the organization of this week's session. I did want to remind folks of this moment from a little while ago. You may recall that we were clapping for Carol. We'll be clapping for somebody else on June 25th when we hold our next edition of the Table Topics Contest, or maybe we'll be clapping for Carol again because she signed up as well, I believe. So we will need some supporting roles. Please pull together to help that happen. I know one of the things that's open is a chat monitor that we will need. And if you remember how we do this, it's supposed to mimic a professional webinar where you're taking questions from the audience via chat. So the chat monitor to assist the speakers in keeping up with everything that's coming in via chat is very important for that format to work. It's tough but challenging, 6 to 8 minutes, including some Q&A feedback. Let's see, we would love to hear from our guests, particularly people who've been here for the first time. Anna, what did you think of this experience?
I actually think it's very nice. You just have to get used to the flow, and then just finding the right people, because this person, and I'm like, oh, where was he? But you just have to get used to it, but I think it's great.
All right. And Salma?
Yes, I mean, it felt like a Toastmaster meeting, and everybody knew what they were doing. There was a timer, there's an evaluator. It just felt like home. So it was great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, I didn't know what I was doing, but other people did, and so that was good. Paul, what did you think your second time here?
I thought it was great. Similar to last week's meeting, we had 3 great speakers again, and it's just a totally different dynamic, and I'm really starting to enjoy the brick and mortar, but then really the online experience now I'm actually almost enjoying it more just because of the flexibility, and it's a lot of work meetings are all virtual now, and a lot of things, everything's going virtual, so it's pretty cool to see how it's benefiting me already.
Oh, we should hear from Jeffrey, who is another first-time visitor.
I absolutely enjoyed the meeting. It's truly an experience, and I sincerely appreciated the feedback about my face too close.
Well, and actually, if you're an RVer, you should know that a couple of our members travel around the country in an RV doing tutorials on technology for travelers, and they do a weekly online show. So I look forward to introducing you to them. Ben, did you have a good time tonight?
Yeah, great. Great meeting again. I'm definitely ready to join.
All right, well, fantastic. Well, those who are ready to join, there's a page on our website. It's called Join, and there you will find the application and a button you can click to pay online. We'd love to have you as part of this club. So, everybody.
What about Susan?
Susan, oh, I'm sorry. Susan, you've been here before, haven't you, or not?
No, this is my first time.
Oh, okay.
This has been wonderfully, and I really appreciate the fact that you let me come in. I am so thrilled about something that I don't think anybody else has noticed. The thing that grabs me with the online community is getting to know each other as people. And you did that at the beginning of the meeting so that we would get to know who was who in the club. And then it happened at the end when people were giving feedback. And I think that those two portions of the online meeting are what really form the glue that holds clubs together. And I have learned a lot. Thank you ever so much.
All right. Well, thank you. We're glad you're able to join. And Dorette, you're here for just the. Not everybody knows, but this is Dorette Keene is. Oh, she disappeared again. Z981. Did you want to say hello, Dorette? We're not getting audio from you. Okay. Technology is not cooperating, I guess, but wonderful to see you here, and I hope to see you back another week. Anything else, folks?
I do want to add a couple of things. I will be sending out the assignments for Toastmasters of the Week for June and July, so watch out for that email coming out. Also, we have been very good at signing up for speaker spot. You may notice if you go onto the line, there is no more spot in June, but you do want to sign up for backup. Rod, for example, signed up as a backup speaker today, and he got bumped up. Therefore, fully use that option. When people can't make it, they drop out. As a backup speaker, you will be bumped up. You want to speak, jump onto the website, sign up for your speaking spot.
All right. And Roger, we couldn't talk into taking an officer role this year, but he does a lot to keep things organized here. So thank you, Roger, very much. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Have a good one. And all our guests, I'll be connecting with you.
Okay.